And now I'd like to open the meeting to the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Jeremy.
I'm so grateful tonight for the constant support we have here at this church. The longer I am a member here, the more certainly I see that there is not one problem I could have that Christian Science cannot make quick work of. I have had a tendency in my life to overcomplicate things. I got to the point where I couldn't make a decision because I saw too many variables and too many options. Since coming to Plainfield, however, I've discovered that there is only one option, which is God, and the only variable is whether I'm going to be awake and listen to his voice or not. The other day, I found the following from Bicknell Young's 1936 Association Address. The temptation to become complicated in thought and explanation, if yielded to, obscures Christian Science and prolongs or perhaps prevents demonstration. Christian Science is intellectual in the highest sense, but that sense is love. And lacking the simplicity of interpretation, which the demonstration of love alone can give, Christian Science is not correctly explained. I felt chills when I read that, because I only want to be simple and to express love and to do right by God. Anything else feels wrong, and I've spent enough time living that way. I'm so grateful for what I am learning here, for the daily support of my practitioner, the weekly lessons, and all this church offers, because all of it is helping me to move forward as simply as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Linda from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the readers for the beautiful readings tonight, and I really enjoyed the music today. Thank you. I'm very grateful for all that Plainfield website has to offer and the church. Just recently, on a car trip that became unexpectedly very long, after a very long, difficult day at work, I discovered another feature that I found on the website. It was a podcast that I had downloaded a while back but hadn't been using. I downloaded it on my podcast app. While on the trip, I did not have Wi-Fi, and to my joy, I discovered that I could listen to these along the way. It brought the needed comfort and healing thoughts. It turned my attitude and negative thoughts around and put them on God. I appreciate all the time, money, and thought that is put into the development of preparing these materials that can be accessed so many different ways at any time. Truly, it is a feast of soul served with love. I continue to be humbled and awed in my experience here at Plainfield. If anyone is interested and has a device that can download this podcast, it's called Independent Christian Science. Thanks again to everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Tom from Iowa, go ahead.
I testified a few weeks ago about my new job, but for a period of time I stopped going into work, yielding to some paranoia and fear. But the practitioner encouraged me to go back and pointed out to me that I had done this before and it was the wrong pattern with me. That woke me up somewhat, and I made calls, apologized, and I was allowed to go back to work. The practitioner made it plain to me that she couldn't help me if I was going backwards, and so I found myself still wanting the practitioner help and to go back to my job, which I didn't really want to lose. And yesterday I got my first check, and thank God, I saw that I could tithe again, and without the help of Plainfield, I would not have been able to work. So I'm grateful to God and for practitioner help. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary, go ahead.
I want to express my gratitude tonight for one of many life-changing lessons I've learned here in this church. Before I came to Plainfield in and when I came to Plainfield, I had this great fear of confrontation. And it was rooted in this misconception that I had gotten from attending some Boston-affiliated churches that the only way to go through life is to be diplomatic about things and not ruffle feathers and work things out peacefully. And but when I came to Plainfield, Mrs. Evans, our fine practitioner and teacher, told us that there's a war going on between good and evil, and we'd better be fighting on the right side of that war if we want to have a life. And I remember thinking initially, I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear about a war going on. And I struggled with that because I was having problems as a result of not wanting to face confrontational situations. I was having problems in relationships with people. I was certainly having problems in business because I was turning my back on confrontational situations that I needed to take care of and handle. Well, this same practitioner, Mrs. Evans, helped me to see how incredibly selfish I was. To be so concerned about not hurting people's feelings that I was not taking care of things that I needed to take care of, not only for my benefit, but for their benefit. Totally selfish, totally unloving, and totally ungodlike. And I remember very clearly waking up one morning after struggling with this, and a changed person. And I remember saying out loud, "Okay, God, I get it. Help me to do whatever it is that you want me to do, because I recognize there is a war going on. It's not my fault that there is a war going on, but there is a war, and I have a responsibility to fight on the right side. So please help me to do what you want me to do, because the battle is yours." And I remember the incredible liberating feeling I got when I came to that realization. I literally was a different person. And since then, I have no fear of confrontational situations. I'm not so concerned about hurting people's feelings. And I have a peace of mind that I just never had before. And a much greater confidence that God is in control of my life. So I'm very grateful to Mrs. Evans, our practitioner, for helping me see what I needed to see. And I'm grateful to Mary Baker Eddy for fighting the battles before us and winning them and giving us this tremendous science that equips us to win the battles. So grateful to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you for the readings tonight. Last week I experienced a painful cramping in my chest while I was preparing to go to bed. And it seemed to come shortly after we had done a watch, which is prayerful work that this church does in unity to specifically address a problem in the world usually. So I knew that the pain I was experiencing was an impersonal attack on God's work. And so I prayed to know that I couldn't be the victim of any evil that would try to convince me otherwise, and also that God is the only cause and then that I am the effect. I also worked with a statement I like in Science and Health, which is, be firm in your understanding that the divine mind governs, and that in science man reflects God's government. Have no fear that matter can ache, swell, and be inflamed as a result of a law of any kind, when it is self-evident that matter can have no pain nor inflammation. It still seemed to continue on and off all night. I have my alarm set now for 6 in the morning so I can study and read the lesson before all the needs of the day start calling. And I found that it's important for me to do this, to be obedient, to get up, to do this study, because any later and I seem to get sidetracked. Well, after about 20 minutes of working, of reading, I became so focused on the truth that I was reading and just feeling God's presence in the quiet and calm of the morning, that all pain just vanished. In fact, I don't even remember when it vanished, but it did, and I was just so grateful for that demonstration, that quick demonstration of God's care for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Luann from New York, go ahead.
So grateful to God for leading me to Christian Science and opening my eyes to the fact that He created me and has been with me always. Through the weekly lessons, Bible verses with citations, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy, I have come to understand the love that is God. My first glimpse of the healing power of God came when I was blessed with a healing from severe physical and mental abuse. Before this healing, through love imparted by my practitioner, I didn't know anything but the life I was living. It was filled with hate and anger and fear. I felt like I was screaming inside and had to fight for every bit of sanity, constantly running into my own shadow, trying to find 1 second of clarity. I never imagined there would be a day when my heart was so filled with love and peace and harmony. Through His grace and mercy, I have been healed. Through the lessons I am being taught here at the Plainfield Church Independent, I am learning to build on a solid foundation of truth. Each new day brings with it a sense of peace and harmony, and my heart is filled with love. I am deeply grateful to be a servant of God as a member of this church that has taught me to see the good in life and to hold steadfast to the good, enduring, and true. I am so grateful to my practitioner for the many healings I have had and for her continual guidance and prayers. I am grateful for Mrs. Eddy and this life-changing science of healing. Thank you.
Thank you. Sana or Tom from Illinois, go ahead.
Thank you for those lovely readings. I would like to give gratitude for the working out of a problem. I had a series of challenging situations take place over a 2-week period of time, which coincidentally happened after a difficult experience where an employee at work had to be let go. The situation left me feeling like I was on the receiving end of someone's hatred and anger. It left me feeling vulnerable and very upset over the challenges I was experiencing. But instead of turning to God, I tried to deal with them humanly. I don't even think I was fully aware of that as I was so focused on the problems, the worst of which was that my computer, which I use for a lot of my work, suddenly went haywire. So I called a technical support person with the computer company, and they said it appeared to be a virus. So I did everything they told me to do, but the problem continued and actually worsened. After a great deal of frustration, I finally sat back and realized I needed to turn to God completely with all of this. I began with the suggestion that the onset of problems were the result of the disruptive work situation. Instead of allowing myself to be disturbed by that idea, I turned away from it completely and claimed that God was the only cause and there could be no effect from any other cause. And that because God was good and made everything good, nothing could be out of order or malfunctioning, and that the harmony of my experience could not be interrupted. I really held to the perfection of God and all of His ideas, including my computer, and I refused to dwell on anything that opposed to this. After a short while, I began to feel calm and confident of God's power to resolve all of this. And I felt led to call the computer tech person back, and he suggested some other things I could do. And within a very short time, my computer was up and running and actually was better than ever. This was really a wonderful lesson to me and a reminder that God is indeed a very present help in trouble. I'm just so grateful for Christian Science and how practical it is in our daily lives.
Thank you. Chardell from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. Excuse me. Tonight I would like to, first of all, thank everyone and for our readings tonight. They were very beautiful. And I would also like to thank everyone involved at the Plainfield Church to share my gratitude for the praying, the studying, the music, the writing, the speaking, and the listening. All of this, of course, is based on the Bible and science and health. I wish to share this gratitude because so many things have happened to me since coming to Plainfield about a year ago. And this gratitude just fills me up. And because of this devotion that everyone does and shares at Plainfield and share with the world, I'm waking up to God's love, goodness, and mercy, not only for myself, but my family, my community, my nation, and my world. Plainfield, thank you. You have truly blessed all of us. Good night.
And thank you. Suzanne from Vermont, go ahead.
Good evening. I'm so grateful to be a member of this church, and ever since becoming a member in 2002, my life has completely been enhanced and turned around with so many blessings that have come my way. Sorry about the bells in the background. One of the things I love the most and was guided to is the 91st Psalm. And our Bible lesson this week begins with the 91st Psalm. And when I started working with a practitioner, I think that was one of the first things she told me was to memorize it, and that it has a great power. And I took that on and found that it wasn't easy to memorize, but a wonderful challenge. And it's become a rock part of the spiritual armor, or just a total resource to go to immediately is the 91st Psalm, and I find it brings great comfort. I'd also like to recommend the 91st Psalm pamphlet, which is available on our website by Doris White Evans. I remember first reading this pamphlet that explains the 91st Psalm in great detail, and I found it to be so helpful. And also, in the audio section of our website, Faith and Peter's songs. The first one is the 91st Psalm, and I'm able to listen to it on my iPhone or on the website whenever I need comfort. I'm so grateful to be here tonight. I'm grateful for all the testimonies, the readings, and there's no other place I'd rather be but here. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Bruce, and I want to say thanks for those really awesome readings that we heard tonight. Before honor is humility. Seems like such a simple concept, but what a potent truth it is indeed. And I'm endlessly grateful for Christian Science because it's helped me immensely. There was quite some time ago, I had an awful time with this malady called pride, and it's like I didn't even know when I was in its grips. But I remember years ago opening up our textbook, Science and Health, and reading a statement that's actually in our lesson this week, and it goes like this: if you believe in and practice wrong knowingly, you can at once change your course and do right. And I looked at that statement that said, at once change your course. Here I am struggling and to find the right way, but here this gives me a picture of somebody who just gladly changes their course and does what's right. And with that at once element there, it's like isn't held back by any shame or pride or these awful human qualities. And then I looked at the first part of the sentence just this week and thought about if you believe in and practice wrong knowingly, and I asked myself, who's going to practice wrong knowingly? I remember what we studied last week in our lesson about the Pharaoh who, plague after plague, repeatedly hardened his heart. And then this gave me a picture of somebody who could not change his course, because somebody who hardens their heart so badly, they're so out of touch with their conscience or any sense of right, and they're just not knowing it, quite frankly. And ultimately it resulted in the loss of his whole army in the middle of the Red Sea. What an awful price. But then I had to remember my own experience a time when I was driven with pride in its grips and didn't even know it, and maybe was even rebelling against those that were telling me what I needed to hear. And then it made me so thankful for Christian Science, because when I was released from that grip, I was able to at once change my course. And what a refreshing thing it is. So I'm endlessly grateful for Christian Science for helping me, practitioner help frequently, friends who saw what I needed to know and told me what I needed to hear. Thank you very much. It's been quite a release for me. That ability to at once change your course shows someone who simply, humbly wants to obey God with all their heart and nothing else. And it's a wonderful thing to come to. And the readings tonight explained it so clearly and so well. What a refreshing thing it was to hear God's message tonight, and thank you. Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
This is Day. Thank you. I'm grateful for all that we're learning through Plainfield about the importance of humility. Being aware of this is helping me not to become so easily offended as I once did, to be less judgmental of others, to recognize God as the only power who knows what's best for me, mind, and all, and to be more grateful to Him for all that He does for me and through me, now understanding that there's no good that I can have or that I can do without Him. I'm grateful for Jesus' example that proves that I can't be humble enough. And thank you all for your testimonies tonight and for all that everyone's sharing here constantly. Thank you.
And thank you. Lillian?
I found such a security here when I found God. I used to always ask for others' advice in making decisions, but here I learned to turn only to God for all my answers. He's always with me to help me. What a freedom. He's a solid rock and has only the best for me and everyone. He's my best friend, and I'm so grateful that he brought me to this church. And thank you for those wonderful readings.
Thank you.
Florence.
Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. Tonight I'd like to give gratitude for one of the great lessons I've learned through Christian Science, and that is the understanding between compassion and sympathy. Prior to Christian Science, I only knew sympathy, to feel sorry for people suffering and the sick, and to feel their pain and often go down with it, to feel teary when I watched, sad situations and so on. But in Job we read, "Lift up thy face unto God. When men are cast down, then thou shalt say, there is lifting up, and he shall save the humble person." This understanding of compassion has done a great thing for me, because now when I see sad situations, I know that I must have compassion instead of sympathy. Compassion includes the Christ truth which sees our perfection, and the Christ power which uplifts and heals the suffering. I am so grateful for learning this, because much is going on in our world today, and if I didn't know this, I would still be going on feeling sorry and being drawn into the wrong picture. I am so grateful for learning this through this church, for Mrs. Eddy, her revelation, for Christ Jesus' example, and for everything going on here, everyone's participation in making this a holy mission. Thank you so much for the readings tonight.
Mary?
I'll read a few things from our church website bulletin board. The first, Pennsylvania. Thank you, Joseph, for your recording of the Sermon on the Mount and your piano solos. Everything found in Joseph's Corner is a blessing. The solo duet on this past Sunday was touching. What an honor to be part of Plainfield and all its participants. And then Georgia. Much gratitude and appreciation to Jared and Faith for this Sunday's duet. Fear not, my child, I'm with you always. I know how to care for what belongs to me. A comforting and promising message to take with me and keep forever. Many thanks for the good you do for the world through your music each week. And this was from New York, originally written in Spanish and then translated. I'm very grateful for today's roundtable, the topic about the importance to surrender our will to God, that our desires should be only to know God more and to grow spiritually is very helpful. One of the comments that stayed with me is, what is impossible to man is possible to God. Only God has power. Thank you to all, and also thank you to Florence for that important topic. And then Virginia. Faith and Bruce, thank you so much for very beautiful singing of the reality of things in today's Sunday service. Such a blessing. And then Costa Rica. The round table was just what I needed. The lady who told of her daughter's challenge, I have a similar situation. The service was wonderful too. Thank you, Plainfield Christian Science Church. And then there were a couple of emails. One, I'm not sure where it's from, but anyway. My husband and I are very interested in your church. We have both been considering class instruction, mainly because fellow Christian Scientists tell us we can't truly know how to heal without it. We balk at this idea as we've had many lovely healings already. The time and isolation constraints have been an impediment as we have responsibilities that we feel obliged to uphold on the home front and can't sequester ourselves away for a 12-day block of time. Doing so would put many family members at a loss. We don't feel that love would desire us to do that. It is intriguing that your class instruction may have a different format. We are not members of a branch church due to our long distance from a church, so we love the idea of being able to attend your services remotely. How wonderful. We have listened to several of your Wednesday services. And then she asks about a forum communicating with Plainfield members. We are eager to discuss the dynamics of your independent church and get feedback from them. Many thanks. And then one more from Florida. Each morning for the past 3 months, I've been listening to recordings of the Sunday Roundtable sessions posted on the church website. I look forward eagerly to these listening times, as I had been hungering for companionship with spiritually minded friends. Many of your names and voices are familiar to me now, and I feel like you are all dear friends, even though I've never met many of you or even spoken to you. I began listening with the 2013 recorded roundtable sessions and am now up to those dated September 2014. They help to refresh the precious teaching I received at Plainfield many years ago, and also often help me to see things in a new way. Yesterday, while I was listening to the 9/7/14 session on the lesson Sermon Man, I was struck by how much the participants had grown spiritually over this year's worth of recordings. There was a sense of spiritual strength, calm assurance, and sweet peace in the answers of many of the participants. Often we are not aware of the progress we have made while we are in the midst of growing, and it is not until the smoke of battle clears away that we can see the great spiritual growth that has occurred. As an out-of-town member and one who has been listening from afar, I thought it would be both helpful and encouraging for you to know your growth in grace is obvious. I send my love and gratitude for your part in the mission of the Plainfield Church. In the lesson this week, in Science and Health, Mrs. Eddy says, the recuperative action of the system, when mentally sustained by truth, goes on naturally. Even the doctors, even the medical, even in a human way, people say how magnificent our human body is. Tremendous things it can do, and also the capacity it has to heal itself. It's certainly no coincidence. God made man in his image and likeness, and we are not in matter, we are in spirit. And Mrs. Eddy says that we are the embodiment of right thoughts. And as we embody those right thoughts, our body expresses it. In one of Carpenter's watching points, he says that when you are having a physical problem, it is a red flag telling you in some way that you've been malpracticing on it. And by that, if you are entertaining not the right thoughts, but the wrong thoughts, envy, revenge, jealousy, depression, your body's going to cry out and say, stop it. And if you do stop it, and if you do what Mrs. Eddy has said in this sentence, if you sustain it by the truth, this recuperative action of the system will go on naturally, and you will find yourself well, which is your natural and normal and right state. So, how important it is that we feed our body with the truth of our being. And this lesson is full of the truth of our being, that God made us, that he loves us, and that we cling steadfastly to God and hold nothing but his likeness in thought. All of these things are the truth that sustain us and keep everything in harmony with our loving Father, Mother, God. I am very grateful for Science and Health for the power in so many, in all of Mrs. Eddy's statements, how they can be used so practically. I'm grateful to be here tonight, the wonderful readings, beautiful music, testimonies. Thank you all.
Thank you.